Hey guys, welcome back to the Journey Not Real Talk podcast. Today's episode is about the real impact AI is having on our careers, workplaces, and the future of work. Not the hype, not the headlines, but the honest conversations people need to hear right now. Today, we are joined by Adele Reid. She's an AI strategy and value transformation consultant who works directly with organizations implementing AI in the real world. In this episode, we will be exploring hot topics such as AI agents, how businesses are feeling the pressure, and what professionals should be doing right now to stay relevant in this new era. This conversation isn't about fear, it's about awareness, preparation, and understanding where the world of work is heading. So, with that said, please join me in welcoming Adele. Hi, Adele. Thank you so much for joining me today. To start us off, can you share a little bit about yourself, your background, and some of the exciting projects you have been working on recently?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me, firstly. So a bit about me. So I am, like you say, a AI strategy and value consultant. I have been working in the consulting industry for around 7 years now. I started out as an intern at Accenture, and I was kind of thrown into the world of data. So my first ever project was as a data lake governance analyst, and I remember that being just a completely new world. But over the years, I've done everything from project managing on a data migrations piece. I've been as a data analyst, business analyst. I helped to build out the data product strategy for a lot of our clients at Accenture as well. And then more recently, as we've moved from the data era, focusing on data into AI, of course. Then I sort of started to focus on projects where we were implementing AI Center of Excellences and identifying and getting value out of AI. So I've worked with the global utilities companies, I've worked across global banks as well, and I'm currently working with a global entertainment company as well. This one's more focused on a technology replacement, but all with the aim of utilizing AI in the future as well. So yeah, got a lot of experience, and I'm really excited to talk a bit more about it.
From your own experience and all the projects you have been working on, right? I feel like AI is literally everywhere now in our everyday life. So it will be very interesting to dive more into your different topics under the AI umbrella. Adele, you work with organizations on AI every day. So how would you explain AI agents to a person who has never heard of this term before? Because I know this is such a buzzword nowadays, right? What is the right way to really understand this word and the impact of it on our job?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, AI and agents is all the craze at the moment. You can hear you hear agents and think, gosh, what does that even mean? Like, is it agency? Well, the way I would describe it is it's like having a virtual junior member of your team.
Mm,
So the way that if we look at sort of where agents has come from, because this is how I'd like to explain the story. So when AI came out, what everyone was using was ChatGPT, and that was a form of AI called generative AI. So you would put in what you call your prompt. So you would ask the ChatGPT a question, and it would return a result. Now AI has progressed since that sort of question and answering type form into what we're calling agents. So this means that now, instead of just asking for a response where you might say, okay, I don't know, write me an email, you can now say, I want you to analyze this document. I want you to come up with the key points from this document. And then at the same time, I want you to write this email for me. So you're starting to couple these, sort of bridge these different activities together. And therefore, it's likened to a junior analyst that you might have within your company, right? Because it's a virtual employee that's starting to complete tasks from end to end instead of just one item within that activity, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. That's very interesting. When you mention the AI agents is like, a junior members of the team. What's your view on the impact of that on the more junior roles?
I can imagine it's extremely daunting for
Mm,
young people when they're seeing that there's fewer grad jobs, that the grad jobs that they are likely to go into, the types of tasks that they would be doing potentially can be done by AI. And I think that's where I try and teach that one, AI can't do it all. And
mm,
whilst we've seen a huge progression in what the models can achieve and some of the output that we see is phenomenal, there is still a lot that it can't do. And the hallucinations that I've seen, some of the things that it just gets really wrong, that, like, someone who's potentially in middle school would be able to spot, right? So
yeah.
the technology isn't quite there. So I personally don't think that it's going to take over a full junior role right now. I think what organizations are doing at the moment is they're starting to reduce the intake because they're starting to see a wave and they're sort of getting on the wave. And there's a huge amount of pressure as well in terms of reducing the cost base at the moment for companies.
Mm,
So I think that's the trend that we're seeing at the moment. Focusing it back on to sort of the junior employee, I think that there's a few areas where I'd say they should focus their time. So I think try not to worry too much about AI taking the job and try and be stick on top of the curve. So what do I mean by that? What what is it that you want to do? I think it's extremely important that you still follow your passion. So, for example, if your passion is still within IT and I don't know, you did a data science degree, still go and be a data scientist. The difference now, and it is unfortunate, right, because you do have to do the extra work to make sure that you're keeping job, that you're sticking on top of that and you're at the frontier of your work, is to make sure that you're aware as to where your job is going. So if you want to be a data scientist, okay, great. How is that role going to evolve with AI? What's the trainings that you need to do? And how do you demonstrate what value you're bringing to your company? And I think that's going to vary a lot depending on what role you're in, what you want to do in the future. But I think there's some key skills which sit across all these different roles, which any person can, start to hone in on. And I think that the key areas where AI hasn't quite got up to par with humans yet is all around stakeholder management, so human to human interaction. It's around empathy, so making sure that you're, again, it's that human interaction. It's also the review side of things, right? So
mm,
if you're able to take content from AI, you're able to then use your own knowledge, but then also relationships that you have with others in the organization to say, that doesn't look right. I don't have the expertise in it, but I'm going to check with someone else. That initiative and being able to do that review before it then gets to more of the senior people in an organization is a huge skill to have. And I
mm.
think that the other one, I would just say the fourth one, so important, is all around AI governance and ethics. This is a place where I think not many people are doing enough in this space.
Yes,
So
yeah.
if you can prove out this skill, then you're really going to excel. And it's simple things, right? Like if you've got client data, especially if it's sensitive data, have you got the controls in place so you're not just plugging it through AI without their consent? Any sensitive data, are you making sure that that's scrubbed before it goes into any of these models? It's doing these kind of checks.
These are exactly, pieces of advice that people really need nowadays. In our community, there's a lot of, young professionals or young grads, and I can see the fear in a lot of them. The theme for the younger professionals or grads nowadays is the bar is higher. The way that they approach their career nowadays needs to be more strategic and it has to be more long term. So they have to think broader. It's not just about the job description itself anymore, but it's really about, back to the point that you mentioned, right? What do they really want to do and where their role is going, where the industry is going, what is happening outside of their job, the external factors.
I think as well, we're talking here around the challenges around getting into corporate a lot, right, as well. But with challenges, there's also huge opportunities with AI to then go in a different direction. So never before has someone without any technical skills being able to develop their own web application, have marketing, have sales, all interconnected through AI and being able to be done through what we call vibe coding, which is basically natural language used to build out these applications. So as a graduate now, you have so many more opportunities to become an entrepreneur, and the barrier to entry for that has lowered significantly. Yeah, whilst there is a lot more that you need to think about from like a corporate perspective, if you have a good understanding of how to use AI, you've kind of then you're opening up two paths for yourself, both like the corporate route, your own work, but then other jobs as well.
You have been working with the corporate world, and I know there's a lot of things happening at the moment, right? All over the place, with all the topics you mentioned, like how to make sure that the data models are right, how to train them, how to optimize the cost of running those models, or things like AI governance and ethics, right? What are you seeing behind the scene? What is happening in those organizations, and what is the uncomfortable truth about AI in the workplace that most people aren't ready to hear from your own experience?
The uncomfortable truth about AI is that it's progressing faster than we can keep up from a cultural perspective. So the technology is progressing extremely fast. We're seeing updates, on it used to be years, then it was months, now we're seeing weeks and almost even days. If I look at from what we've done at our company, we started building AI agents on Copilot in January. We've now completely removed the work, decommissioned the work that we've done there, because we can start to vibe code and build a lot quicker with better connections through Claude. So the pace of change is extraordinary. And to keep up with that, even just with, the trainings, is you have to put a lot of effort in. And of course, if you're focused in on AI, that's somewhat you're able to do, right? I think the uncomfortable truth for the people sitting in the business is that their jobs are going to have to change in the future. They are already changing in some companies. We're starting to see that. A lot of companies are still at that lower side of the maturity curve. And the biggest blocker for that is the adoption and cultural side of things. So it's people, I would say that there is, of course, the technology and the data part around that as well. We can cover that separately, but the biggest uncomfortable truth is that you have to get to grips with AI. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you need to understand what AI is. You need to understand how it's going to impact not just your job, but it's more of a process view on this. So let's say that you sit within your HR team and you are doing recruitment. At the moment, you may be doing this manually. You might screen a whole load of CVs. You might then progress the candidate through to an interview. Off the back of that, you're then going to have, assessment center, and then you're going to offer them a job. That's your process. That's your recruitment process. The uncomfortable truth here is that you're going to have to start to think, okay, so how is AI going to impact that? So from my perspective, I know that AI can do screening. You've got AI interviewers now, and you've got models which can help you to do the scoring of individuals, right? And not necessarily deciding who does and doesn't get progressed, because that's very much human judgment that needs to be added to that process. But it's having that lens as someone who works in recruitment to say, this is where it's going. I need to stay on top of this curve. So, what are the things that I need to do? I need to learn more about AI. So, pretty much from what we've seen now, most white collar large companies now have that foundational training on AI. So, 100% do that. Second one, it's having a play around with AI in your home life. So, you can use a free ChatGPT account, or my preference is Claude, right? So you can go and use Claude and just have a play around with that, see what you can do with AI and test it for yourself. And then I think it's bringing that knowledge and also doing some industry analysis as well to say, okay, where is this heading? What is the strategy within my own company? And what can I start to do now which can help towards that goal? I think that is a key, it's a key uncomfortable truth that most people need to know to stay ahead.
There's a lot of people that I've spoken to. They are worried that now, because AI is part of the recruitment process, so that may lead, especially in at the screening stage. So is there any chance that it will make it unfair? So for example, if they have the skills, but they don't have the keywords that the AI system can screen through, so there can be the chance that if CV will be excluded from the process, why actually they are, ineligible candidates for the role.
I think CV screening at the moment is the hardest for people trying to find a job. And the reason for that is because you're right. What does the AI do from the recruiter side? It will screen your CV, and if you have a cover letter, it will then take out keywords and semantics, which then match to the job description. And of course, from a candidate perspective, most of the time because it's so difficult to get a job now, you're using AI to create your CV and to slightly tweak it, right? So you're getting homogenous CVs, which then link to the job descriptions. And it is so difficult then to get the right candidates through that first stage. My belief on this is, and this is kind of slightly going off topic, but I don't think that the CV screening process will be a decision point in the future. So I think it will be a supportive material to an AI interview to then make a decision on a candidate. I mean, how can you get around this? AI can spot AI quite well. So you want to make sure that anything that you're creating with AI, you're reviewing, and you're making sure that it's not got those really long hyphens that are really common in ChatGPT, for example, right? That not all your titles are capitalized, just small things like that, I would say. Firstly, that's quite a minor point. Secondly, it's really bringing it to life. So I think pulling out examples of what you've done and how that's impacted. And I know that's so difficult to do on a short CV when you're trying to basically tick list all of these skills and competencies that you've got. But I think it's so important to then get that depth that the AI will recognize and then will score higher. I think that's probably the second point. And then I think third, honestly, trying to see what you can do outside of that CV screening process. So the successful candidates that I see, they're referred. They've got connections. If they don't have connections, they're figuring out on LinkedIn who the right person is to contact, and they're reaching out to someone in that future team. I honestly think or a recruiter, right, as well. That's probably another good way to kind of secure yourself into one of these roles.
One of the things that I think at the Journey Note, for us, I think it's really important to have all of those kind of life skills, including things like, building connections, communication. In your consultancy work, I know that you mentioned a lot of people are impacted, and we have been really kind of focusing on the young professionals, so the grads. In general, what have you seen, which roles, which industries are you seeing impacted the most right now? Are there any kind of jobs that are really truly safe?
I think, I can't remember what company it was, but it was a large company whose CEO said, even my job is not safe. Wow. And I would echo that. I don't think anyone's job as it currently stands is what we call safe, but I think it's a mindset thing here, right? We've been through various different revolutions over the years, like the dot-com boom, for example. Everyone thought all their jobs was going to go because everything was going to move to digital, right? Whilst some jobs did go, others, a lot changed and a lot formed as well. So I think no job is definitely going to stay the same. My perspective on it is that one, you should be on top of the curve no matter what role or industry that you're in. But the key areas where AI is hitting the most at the moment is in back office. So this is where, AI is doing a lot of the automation work, and it's areas where they aren't necessarily directly generating revenue. So it's currently a cost center. They want to reduce the cost base for their company, and AI is enabling them to do it. So if you are, for example, doing a data entry role, you're going to be more at risk than someone who's more in a strategic or, for example, like sales service type role where you're out with clients and you're generating revenue. I think most people probably do know that, right?
So actually the agent is still there, right? Like the people who actually the agent, but they would probably in the past we need 100 people, but now probably we just only need 50. What separates the professionals who will thrive from those who will struggle? That is the bigger picture, but I think we can use that example to illustrate that point.
For sure. And like you say, you can't control, which is normally a top-down directive to say that I want to cut costs in a certain area. But what you can do is you can focus in on the skills which are going to get you to hopefully be one of the ones to stay in and progress. So if we use the example, like say, of the call center, what did you have to do before? Before you had to pick up a phone, you had to understand a knowledge base, and you had to understand and learn normally like a transcript, which you would then play back to the customer to resolve their problem. How has that evolved? So like you say, normally the issues that these call center agents get are more bespoke. So anything which is easily resolvable will be done through an automated route. Now, the people who are on the other end of the phone are people with unique situations. So firstly, like you mentioned earlier, having the empathy, having the self-awareness of how you're speaking with that customer. And, also, I think there's something around getting the data back from the customer. So if you're getting a high rating back from your customer and you're able to elicit from them feedback, then you're able to use that data as a point to then show to your internal company, right? And say, look, I'm performing good. Not only have I got a few customers who've given me 5 out of 5 stars, I've got 50 customers compared to my peers, right? So I think that's one point. It's about having that human communication and getting data back, which proves that you're performing well. I guess then you've got the access to information. So if you are then dealing with unique situations from a customer, how are you making sure that you've got the resources that you need available to you so you can then deal with that situation in the best way possible? So that might be having AI which connects into your knowledge base, so you're able to type into a virtual assistant straight away, right? And understand what information you need to then replay back to the customer. Or it may be that you've done some additional work to set up some automated triage. So, okay, I now have come off this call. I need to follow up with XYZ engineers, let's say, but AI's already recorded my transcript. It's already inputting into a service ticket, which then goes straight to that team. Like and maybe you wouldn't be able to do this, right, as an individual necessarily, but it's about having that initiative to go out and figure out, okay, what does the company have? Is there a way that I can, and with Copilot, you can record, not saying you'd necessarily have teams, but right, if you did have teams and you were calling through that means, then you can record transcripts. So I think it's just about building that up. And if you don't have the available technology there, it's about then highlighting that, because it shows that you're going beyond a transactional conversation with your customer to a strategic view. And then, of course, you're then moving your existing role into a career, which then progresses you upwards.
Actually, now you make me realize that, every single time if we get help by an agent, and there's always an ask at the end, can you send me your feedback, or can you rate this call? So most of the time people will ignore it and just like, yeah, I move on with my life. Going forward, I think probably if we do find the help from that agent useful, then please help to rate or score that support, because actually we are helping or contributing to helping someone to keep their job. I think to your point earlier, now the employees is no longer just doing the job that is said in the description anymore. Now they have to go beyond that, really think about the overall process, because they are the one who are part of the process, so they know the process the best. Probably they don't have to implement the enhancements, but being able to take the initiative to telling the managers, for example, that, I've seen some gaps here, and perhaps, these are things that we can do, and give some suggestions to the managers to show them that these can be improved in this way. And perhaps then the managers will go and coordinate different teams to make that happen, right? Not necessarily you who need to do that, but that will really show the managers that you are adding value to the organization. And I think that's a good thing, right?
You made a really good point there. It's about proving to your managers not just where you think the improvement can be done, but it's what the value then will come out of that, right? So if you're able to, the more and more of what I'm seeing is you need a business case for change, and you need to have some hard metrics behind it. So anything that you can do in terms of, I've got this challenge, I've seen this across the call center probably like times 100, I've got the data to back it up, there is so much more likelihood that your managers can then take that to leadership, take it to the budget holder, and get back budget to then implement what you want to do. And again, tick, right? You have successfully been able to get investment for something which is then going to have a positive impact, and something that you can show in terms of what that forecasted value would look like would just be such a tick in the box for you.
That's the whole point of technology. I think technology is not here to replace us. It's here to empower us to do our work. It free our time so we can actually use our brain for something more creative. AI, it just happens too quickly. So that's the reason why people can easily get panicking, and the fear of uncertainty going to kick in, because to get the holistic view of the picture is so challenging. As you say, it changes every single day, right?
I think you're right. And like you say, it's the uncertainty, and there is a lot of nervousness, I think, as well. And there's even nervousness at the leadership level. Like, no one really knows what is going to happen in the future. People have got predictions, and we kind of can start to see the direction based on what we're already seeing. But I think as well, in terms of if we look a bit about behaviors in the workplace, I think there's having that calm presence, more of that confidence and stability in what you're doing and what you're presenting back. I think because of that underlying feeling at the moment of uncertainty about your job, about what's happening in the future, there's a lot of socio-geopolitical challenges ongoing at the moment. I think having someone in the company that you're working with who is able to be very clear, concise, directive, flexible still, but that calm presence actually is another massive benefit at the moment.
Yeah, I think you raise a very good point there, because that is really about empathy, awareness, like not just self-awareness, but also like the awareness of the organizations where it is going, right? Because lots of the time, if you think about the leadership team, they are always under the pressure of performing. They don't have much time to make a lot of decision, and during the uncertain times as well, they don't have all the data they need. So a lot of the time they have to make decision on the spot, right? Because of the pressure from shareholders, like the board, right? But I think, yeah, as you say, if we have someone that can be, at least be calm and have a holistic view rather than just rushing to, we need to, like do this cost cutting initiative immediately. So we just literally reduce all of the teams by 50 people, for example, without considering the impact of that on the overall processes. So it's always the cycles. So people also need to be aware of where they are in those cycles, because sometimes things happen not because of their capability, but it's more about the timing where the organization's at the moment as well.
Yeah, and I think like this is probably the only time in history where, I mean, me and you both worked in consulting, right? Where there was quite a strict process of how you do everything. And as a result of that, there was quite a clear hierarchy. So your senior people would be very clear as to the more junior people following this certain process. But now, I mean, things are changing so quickly that processes are changing fast. And actually, the power's kind of more in the junior staff. Because if you know AI better and you know also like how the technology works and that you need quality data and if there's data challenges going into that AI, if you have that awareness and the ability to make changes to processes, then you're kind of starting to change the whole structure of an organization as well, right? It's no longer that sort of top-down hierarchy. And I think that's also like a massive opportunity for younger, more junior people in the workplace.
That point you raised is so interesting, because similarly, when we had the podcast about data science and machine learning last year as well, one of my guest speakers actually they work for big tech firm, like one of the biggest one in the world, even for one of them. And he did say that the junior people nowadays, they learn technology so fast, even faster than the senior guys, right? So if they know how to leverage that advantage, then they will be able to use that to prove their value to the organization, actually. And that's going to help senior people as well. I mean, still, that's also like a full-time job to really understand what is going on in the AI world itself. Based on everything you have seen and experienced, what is the one thing that you want every professional to remember?
One thing, I'm stuck on two, but I'm going to merge it into
Wait,
one.
go for two. That's
No.
all right. I'm not strict.
I think the really key thing is that you need to figure out what it is that you want to do in life. I have met so many people over the years who have just followed a promotion, who are trying to move into an industry which they think is going to provide them job security. So for us, that was what, 5 years ago, it was a data science role. Data science is one of the easiest roles, unfortunately, to be automated by AI at the moment. So if we, I think what I would suggest is take a step back, figure out what it is that you want to do in life. What is it that interests you outside of work? What is it that you want to get out of life? Is it that you want, really high pay, or is it that you're quite happy, going after something which is more purposeful? Figuring out what you want to do is then going to make sure that you've got that fire, that passion, which then takes you through these peaks and troughs that we are going to see more and more of in the coming, year, 5, 10 years or so, right? If you've got that level of passion, I believe then you will also have the awareness. Well, no, firstly, you'll have the eagerness to do more research. So if you're interested in that area, you'll have more of a holistic view as to what's happening in that role, industry, type of work, right? And then you've then got more of that strategic lens. If you then couple that with the AI learning, which I recommend everyone does, then you're starting to build out the key capabilities which I think are needed in the future. And I think that's, to me, it makes sense in my mind, and it's such a lovely almost direction that I think we can go in, because it comes back to who you are as a person and what you want to achieve. It's no longer this very classic route of you do school, you potentially go to university, and then you get into a corporate role. You might take a different route, but normally it has a standard set of steps, right, to get into, I don't know, even be a builder or whatever. I think it's quite nice that you can start to think more internally about what it is you want to do, and then you can follow your passion, and AI can help you get there. That would be my one takeaway from this poddy.
That's so inspiring, and I love that so much. Honestly, I think you're right. I think when we love something, we will always try to look for opportunities.
Mm,
Why, if you don't love it, then you will always find, oh, these are all the, the hurdles, the blockers, right? We will definitely, by default, whenever we approach anything, then we'll trying to find a way to make it work, right? So that's so inspiring and that's so true. I've heard these themes coming up again and again in so many of my conversations within the Journey Note community, really. And out of curiosity, what is the second point that you had in mind?
it's going to be around the AI training, right?
Yeah.
And if there is anything, it's going away. It's having to play around with ChatGPT, with Claude, seeing what you can do. I mean, even just the free license is good, but if you do a paid license for a bit, then there is the possibilities are endless. You can set up
Yeah.
automated workflows, even for things I don't know that you're doing in your own home life, right? If you want to get latest news in your industry, you could set up an automated workflow. So I honestly think playing around with it is the best way to learn AI.
Mm,
So that would be my second point.
amazing. This is not sponsored at all.
Yeah.
Just very last one. For people who want to do training in AI and AI agents or the tools, the AI tools, right? What are your recommendations on the courses that they can do?
Sure. Okay. I guess it depends where we're starting. So there's so many free learnings that you can do online, right? So even if you just type it in Google, or on ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, any other AI model. Firstly, I would say if you're in a company, have a look at what your company's purchased, because that tends to be more tailored towards the work that you're doing,
Mm,
your industry. It just brings additional context when you're starting to learn AI, right? What I use at the moment is Claude. So Claude has so many different learning paths out there at the moment. They're good, they're bite-sized, and then there's also opportunities for further qualifications. So Claude has just outperformed OpenAI in terms of revenue growth. And
mm,
so I think Claude is very much where businesses are going. Copilot over the past few-ish months
mm.
introduced Claude models, so like Opus and Sonnet, as well as some of the OpenAI models that they had existing. I really do believe that we should be starting to pick up more Claude skills if you're interested in AI. So I would honestly just look at that website and go from there. At the end of the day, it's technology and you've got control of your life. And yeah, I hope me talking through this has given people confidence that even if they, for example, have just come out of university and are really struggling to find jobs, that you will find something. It may not be exactly what you wanted when you first started applying. It might look slightly different, but actually that might be better aligned to who you are as a person and what your overarching goals are in life.
I love that, Adele, and thank you so much. I think with all the things that you have shared, right, hearing your advice, especially from someone who is actually helping big organizations implement AI, really helps them to understand what is happening and feel more confident in approaching, jobs application or even coming up with their own projects, for example, by leveraging AI, right? Thank you so much, Adele, for your time today and everything you have shared. Guys, hope that you found this podcast today useful. See you next time.